Hi guys, this episode was shot at the incredible Rev 17 conference where they are raising funds to get a huge piece of property to house trafficked children. There is no more worthy cause than to save these children. Please click on the QR code and donate to Rev 17. All right, guys, we are here at the Rev 17 conference, a wonderful event, and really the goal of this event is to stop child trafficking. This wonderful church is trying to raise $4 million to buy a big compound where sounds like they want to house hundreds, potentially thousands of children that have been trafficked, that have no family, so they could surround them with love, give them the support they need to overcome their trauma. And I have this wonderful gentleman with me here, John Davidson, and he is an incredible documentary maker and a media professional. And the reason why I wanted to interview John is because we have a similar background. We came from the mainstream Hollywood business, and we were talking before we started this interview about how hard it's been to, we've been enlightened with a lot of information in terms of the child trafficking, the evil in our world, and conveying that to some of the people we used to work with. It seems like a really big challenge. So first, let's start off, introduce yourself, what you do.
Yeah, so I lived in Hollywood for 20, 25 years, worked on movies and TV shows and marketing and things like that. And everything was great up until about 2021. And I was asked to promote Fauci and the vaccines for a project. And I just said, I can't do this. I think my direct quote was, how can I do this and still have a soul? And I don't think the VP had ever been asked that question before at the network. So ultimately I had to back out and chose a new path. And that was involved investigating fraud and medical fraud and Fauci and the vaccines and early treatment options and hydroxychloroquine and all these weird things that the media had suddenly decided to villainize.
Yeah.
First, I really thought that I was trying to expose an anti-Trump bias towards anything that he supported, right? Like if he said the sky was blue, Hollywood would declare that it was green. And based on the smog levels, sometimes they might be right. As soon as he said a thing, half the world would go insane and declare the opposite. And it's funny, to that end, like I've kind of started asking questions on like social media posts, like, or not even necessarily questions, but just, putting it out there, like, you can hate Donald Trump, but you can also ask what Anthony Fauci was actually up to.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You can hate Donald Trump and still agree with him on something. And, it's nice to see like Bill Maher start to approach that, as painful as and slow as it is for him to get that basic logical concept. It's interesting to see it start to slowly unfold.
Yeah.
I always knew there was a bias in Hollywood against anything conservative or Republican. But now I never saw any of the horrible, evil acts that they are describing here.
On that topic, I went to the music booth. I was a music video director for like 7 years, and I didn't see like anything like what they're talking about. I mean, certainly there was a lot of, the music itself of that era is pretty clear what's going on, because it's all about sex, promiscuity, doing drugs, and you could imagine freak offs in a lot of the songs of that era because of what they were trying to sell.
Right.
Yeah. And I've seen the propaganda. I've seen how they tried to bring, even in the music, the filthy music, filthy lyrics. I mean, this has been going on. And you and I might have been like, all right, it's, this kind of hard operating this world in terms of their propaganda. But then COVID comes along, and that jab's going to hurt people.
Yep.
And I don't think people understand, a lot of people in the MAGA movement, how some of us that actually came from the mainstream gave up so much because we felt that we couldn't be part of that propaganda machine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it was a good life I had.
Yeah.
Like, it was so good. And then to take a stand like that, and then to pursue documentaries, which was the direct opposite of a profitable enterprise.
Yeah, direct opposite. And not to mention, it opens up
terrible, but never do that.
It opens up like people listening to your phone lines. All of a sudden, you're getting hacked here and there. I mean, it's just like a lot of misery enters your life when you decide to go against the narrative.
Yeah. It's, I can't undo it. and I don't think I would be able to undo it.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd want to undo
No,
at this
like
point, you know?
you understand things from a different perspective. I mean, you can't be part of that system until it's corrected. And it doesn't mean, look, I'm not trying to change everyone in Hollywood's opinions. I have lots of liberal aspects. I mean, I have electric cars and solar power. I think that shit's awesome.
Yeah.
Oops.
I mean, theoretically, that could also be conservative too. I feel like this is I feel like they kind of brainwash us into this conservative, liberal kind of.
Yeah, they want to put you in boxes.
Yeah, because it's like okay, when you're talking about conserving, yes, conserving energy and that sort of thing. I mean, that could still fit within that bucket. I think we've just been, psychologically operated on to divide. Oh, it's almost like a Crips and Bloods gang mentality,
dude. And you also have like a $6 trillion industry dedicated to combustible gas engines.
Yeah,
$6 trillion. That's a big amount of money.
Yeah.
And the whole economy is based on this, petrodollar system. So yeah, there's going to be motivation to keep that there. And also, look, you've got Texas, right? Big conservative state, also big oil state. So they are threatened a little bit by solar, whatever. Now, look, I don't think that solar is the most perfect thing. It's only good about half the day.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out something to do on the other half. And wind seems to be not the great wine.
Well, I've heard about this. I've heard about like what sounds very legitimate. I'm talking about in production, about to be released in the next year or so. This kind of like box, which is some kind of nuclear perpetual energy.
Yeah. So there's a micro cell nuclear reactors. Yeah. I think they're microcells. Anyway, there's a guy named Taylor. Boy, I sent a redneck there, didn't I? Taylor.
It's great. I love it when it comes out, dude.
Coach Taylor.
See, they say America doesn't have culture. Your culture is here, bro.
Take the boy out of Georgia, but you can't take the Georgia out of the boy.
There you go.
Anyway, I forget his last name, but he was 17 years old. He built a nuclear reactor in his garage in Arizona. He came up with this concept.
That is so dope, dude. 17 years old, building a nuclear reactor.
Oh, yeah.
Cool sentence.
And he did this whole cool new nuclear reactor, and then he had this concept for these micro nuclear reactors that could do like 50 megawatts. So you could do like a small town, like you could do it very easily. And if it overreacted, you just flush it and it would disconnect. And apparently it ran off of the residue or the waste of old nuclear reactor. So we had this amazing thing that could eliminate, because we had to build like what was a Yucca Mountain to where we had a $50 billion port project.
Yeah.
We're going to bury all the nuclear waste in the country.
Yeah.
And then somebody found a couple of drops of water at the bottom, and the Nevada said, "Oh, we can't do this. Thanks for the $50 billion.
Wow.
We'll just hang on to this big hole in the mountain." So, we had a great way to eliminate waste because we can't store it. In San Clemente, California, San Onofre, the scene from Naked Gun where at the very beginning, the first movie, Leslie Nielsen was talking about his breakup with his girlfriend. And he goes, "Everywhere I go, something reminds me."
Yeah. The breasts. The breasts.
Yeah. Okay. So,
sorry.
It's a terrible.
I said breasts. All the women in the room would that be like?
Bring your church.
Sorry.
Repent. But it was a funny scene anyway. San Onofre, that's instead of moving that old waste from that old nuclear reactor, this is a joke, but it's real. They bury it in the sand. So they've got barrels of nuclear waste in the sand along the coast of California when we have earthquakes and risks of tidal waves. So like at any point, one bad disaster, one avalanche underwater 100 miles out could cause a disaster.
Like the whole coastline becomes nuclear is what you're saying?
I mean, maybe.
What is it? Fukushima nuclear disaster vibes?
Except this is radioactive waste that they decided to store there. So, we had a great solution. This Taylor kid came up with, vanished. And
he vanished, or
he still exists, but everything he was talking about has gone away.
So what happened? They shut him up, basically?
I don't know if he got brought in to work on dark projects or whatever, or maybe he was, hired, given a big paycheck to work for. Um, I forget which company it is, but there are companies that are making these things now. So it has come to market. So maybe that's what he's been working on, and he couldn't talk about it. Lawyers get involved.
Yeah, who knows? So I'm glad he's still alive.
Everything fun happens.
I mean, being alive after coming up with a perpetual energy project, that's a big win.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, some people say that, it's not really sustainable. The effort to do the micro reactors is complicated and more complicated than you realize, but there are a lot of different ways to generate energy. And it would not surprise me in the least that we may have cold fusion already.
Yeah.
And I mean, because think about it, we lost Son and Onofre nuclear reactor. We don't have that many blackouts in California. Something's giving us energy. I mean, obviously,
You're saying compared to before, we used to get a lot of blackouts.
well, we had more apparently, right? So it's entirely possible that we have a cold fusion reaction system already in place, and the public just doesn't know about it, because if your energy was free, how would they charge us 45 cents a kilowatt to charge our Tesla?
Yeah, totally. But do you think, okay, let me ask you on that tip. Do you think that this idea of paying for energy with the economy, because the reason I ask is because we do this thing called the America 3.0 conference. It involves a lot of different categories of what is called the freedom movement, uniting Republicans, JFA Democrats, libertarians, independents and stuff, right? And, as we're putting this festival together, it really kind of all these new ideas started to come forward, right? Where it's like with the nuclear fusion reactors. But the big thing that became clear when we're talking about AI is that AI is going to take over a lot of what humans get paid for, right? So we're entering a new economy, and people are talking about this thing like the Internet Bill of Rights, right? For example, they use our data. Everybody starts getting paid for their data if they choose their data to be used, because these guys are making money. So these kind of groundbreaking ideas that will then replace the incomes that are going to start going away rapidly due to AI, and that is something that we got to kind of think forward to, because if we're still doing the same paradigm, which we're still paying for our energy and everything's the cost it is, this new economy doesn't work.
Right.
So it seems like the only option we have is free energy, cold fusion, or something like in the little nuclear reactor where you do this one-time payment, you got 20 years of energy, thoughts?
Yeah, we're going to have to, like, the entire energy policy of the United States needs to be investigated, reviewed. But look, if you take away the need for oil, oil is still a great resource for energy, and it fuels. Like you can't run a tractor on electric.
Yeah, or a plane, or
certain things just require a more robust immediate energy source, and that is a good thing for the oil industry. But if you were to half their profits, Texas would have problems, because Texas is a state that doesn't charge personal income tax. They are lucky that they have this massive resource there. What happens to Texas if suddenly they have half the money they had before? What happens to any industry that unique happen? So the disruption, and this may be why if we do have cold fusion, it's not discussed. Is that because to bring it out too fast? They did a whole movie. What was it? Chain Reaction.
I haven't seen
with Keanu Reeves. Yeah, where basically they discover cold fusion and the government comes in and murders everybody involved because the world wasn't ready. If you gave free energy, it would destabilize. Now we like that idea. I think at this point the system needs a good enema. This town needs an enema.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like the industries of energy, medicine, government, everything has kind of reached a breaking point. So that's my thought. We're going to have to go ahead and just rip the Band-Aid off at some point. Look, at the electrical energy costs in California have gone up tremendously in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
We had solar in 2008 or 9. We had solar in 2010 and 2011 And it was way better then. Like you had better tiers, like you got more money for the electricity that you generated. They didn't charge you as much. I think we were paying like 15 cents a kilowatt 10 years ago. Now we're paying 25, 50 cents a kilowatt. If you charge your electric car, and by the way, nobody talks about this, but the most brilliant thing that Elon has done, of many brilliant things that he's spearheaded or shepherded or whatever you want to call it, is he has a lock on all of the electrical charge stations across the country. I mean, complete ownership of it. The other guys, like you don't even like. I have no idea what the other chargers are. Like the off-brand non-Tesla chargers. And now, like driving up here to Sacramento this past week, there were Lucids charging or Rivians charging. There were
at the
Tesla.
Oh, the sync charges work.
Yeah, I think they've opened it up now to other car manufacturers.
Well,
which basically means that he has. Imagine if you owned every single gas station in the United States.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's got, but except it's electric.
So they're making profit off of those charging because, I mean, I'm curious, just because of somebody that fills up his tank for $50. What is the cost of every time you charge your battery?
Yesterday, I added 100 miles to the car at a charger over here, and it was about $10.
$10, like yeah.
So that was like 45 cents a kilowatt, which is really high. Well, 2 years ago, I think maybe it was 30 cents. So it's gone up dramatically, and nobody's talking about that. Nobody, like, you don't see signs that show you the price of electricity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on your car. It'll tell you, oh, this is what the charge rate is, peak, non-peak, whatever. But I mean, this is a sleeper profit system that Tesla has that I don't think is properly reflected in the price of it, because it's only going to get better. He's added more and more charge stations all over the place. Now they're almost like becoming their own little social place too. Like there's a place at the Kettleman on the I-5 coming up. The I-5?
I-5, yeah. That's I-5, yeah.
Anyway, you get there and you plug your car in, you use the app, get a code, and you go into this building. And in the building, there's like this clubhouse exclusively for Tesla owners. There's no gas station associated with it, no building, whatever. So there's a lot of interesting, innovative things going on in the charging world that Tesla has spearheaded, and that's a big benefit for them. So whatever happens with car sales or whatever else, if he sold less cars and those people went to go buy Lucids or Rivians or any other electric car brand, they're still going to charge at a Tesla charge spot. So he wins no matter what they choose. So people might get mad at Elon and pick a different brand. They're still going to charge.
He owns every gas station.
Otherwise, they're going to be in hell trying to find a charger on a road trip.
Wow.
So,
like you're saying, so what cost me $50 to fill my tank costs you $10. You're saying, is that
that's a whole
charge?
100 miles. So full charge would probably be $15 to $20.
Really, full charge? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saving about $30.
And it depends, like if you're charging at night when it's empty, or you're charging in the day when there's a line. So,
if you charge it at home, what's the price? What is that?
The price is based on whatever your electricity is. SoCal Edison right now is, I think, 25 cents during off-peak, and then like 50 cents during peak hours.
So it's basically the same, more or less.
Similar.
Price. Yeah, similar price.
You're slight motivation to charge at home. But if you have solar, that helps tremendously because you're offsetting the cost. And I did solar, not with an 80 grand investment that I got a lien or whatever. I did it as an owner builder, used my homeowner's insurance, which has a $100,000 workers' comp policy, I think, built into it in case somebody gets hurt. And I hired an electrician, and I hired a roof tiler guy, because in California we have a lot of these clay tiles. And the crews came in one Saturday and installed it over for me. I bought the panels myself from a wholesaler, and I think all told my 6.8 kilowatt system cost, I don't know, 15 grand. So if you pay up front and you do it as an owner builder, it's more complicated. You've got to hire plans and things like that. Like I get an architect an electrical engineer actually to do the plan. But it's doable and it's more affordable, but you got to take a little risk. And even like the city, when I did it, they were like, you're doing this yourself, right? And I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's okay. So, they're not used to it, but I liked it. It was kind of scary and fun.
Very cool. You do a lot of investigative journalism. You're sharing some stories with me
Sure.
yesterday that really blew my mind. You want to talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done
Yeah.
and, what you exposed.
So 2020, I did a very anonymous masked voice version of Broken Truth, Epidemic of Fraud. And no one was allowed to watch it.
Mm.
Right? Apple had censored library.tv and said you can't talk about, you can't show results for anything involving early treatment, COVID origins,
Mhm.
Pepe the Frog.
Mm.
Apple put these regulations on library when they were trying to get an app for the App Store.
Wow.
And then it came out and Elon tweeted about it and the heads of library.tv talked about it. Apple, I sent requests for the information for memo on it. They didn't want to answer.
Mm.
But they're notoriously silent about these things. But I took that original documentary and then spent the next 3 years refining it. I kind of feel like God was like, okay, kid, you're not going to get to hide behind your mask and your computer. You're going to have to be public.
Mhm.
And so that's what I did. And I started at CNN. So I had a background a little bit in journalism before I went to Hollywood.
Mhm.
So this documentary covers really the media manipulation in response to hydroxychloroquine,
Wow.
which is why, I talked about bias earlier. I thought that it was mostly just anti-Trump bias that was fueling that, but it does appear that it was also the pharmaceutical industry's control of advertising dollars, right?
Mhm.
That helped prompt news networks to oppose hydroxychloroquine. Because here's the thing. Donald Trump promoted hydroxychloroquine. The news panicked, media panicked, deep state panicked, organizations within the government, BARDA, HHS, FDA, CDC, they all rejected it, even though this medication, hydroxychloroquine, is based on quinine,
Mhm.
the oldest chemical compound ever used to treat an infectious disease,
Wow.
ever.
Wow.
Quinine was ground up from a bark of the cinchona tree from Peru, was used to treat malaria.
Mm.
But what was malaria in the 1600s?
Mm.
It meant bad air.
Mm.
So it was any kind of, congestive pneumonia or whatever you would get from malaria. That's what they were treating. They didn't have PCR tests. You think like everything was called malaria in the 1600s. So this was a medication used to treat all kinds of respiratory illnesses. And the system decided that it was bad. And once they decided it was bad, especially because Donald Trump promoted it, they went full tilt against it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's weird is Donald Trump promoted the COVID vaccines. Meeting's all good with that. No, we don't have any problems with that. So that's really an indication that the Trump bias was not, like, it's selectively utilized, which is, that can send you down a whole rabbit hole of, is he part of the news when he works on, is he cleverly knowing what the news will attack and not attack? I don't know. That's all speculation, but the documentary really covers the whole range of topics. It covers immediate response to hydroxychloroquine, the history of hydroxychloroquine, that's a whole thing. There's a crazy thing where the history of hydroxychloroquine, when you learn that in the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln had a blockade on the southern states to prevent cotton shipments, weapons shipments, and imports of of quinine. He wanted southern state soldiers to be, or Confederate soldiers to be, sick with malaria. Because in the South, you had tons of
mosquitoes.
And one of the things I learned was that John Wilkes Booth smuggled quinine to people in the southern states because he was a traveling actor. There's like letters where his sister was begging him to bring it in. So the restriction of access to hydroxychloroquine and its derivatives has been a known tactic of biological warfare for hundreds of years.
Wow.
George Washington, one of the first things when he agreed to fight the Brits for the Revolution, the the rebellion or whatever they called it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things he asked his political masters, that's what the history books say, political masters, was to buy as much cinchona and quinine as possible.
Mm.
Because the Spanish had a lock on sources of that medication, and they used it for to pick and choose winners of battles.
Mm.
So, or wars.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they did. So I mean, quinine was also involved in World War I, World War II, and what may end up being called World War III.
Which is this kind of COVID war, everything that's been going on. Wow.
I mean, so you know, I go into a lot of Ron Johnson's great Senate hearings that the media has wholeheartedly ignored.
I was there actually, the COVID cartel hearings.
Oh,
yeah, Ron Johnson with Lara Logan and pretty much a lot of the frontline doctors.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of good people in the Senate and Congress,
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully they did these events. And I try to cover that a little bit in the movie, but the interesting things have happened since the movie came out. One of the people that was spearheading the attacks on hydroxychloroquine, Janet Woodcock, when I told her and asked her a statement from her, she announced her resignation or retirement 8 days later.
Yeah. But we were talking about this topic yesterday with judges retiring, people retiring. Right. Usually what happens with when the fraud catches up to people, especially judges, right? Let's use a judge as an example because that has repercussions that they're obviously trying to conceal, which is that they often retire a judge just when the judge's criminal history comes to fruition, because then they got to overturn everything that person did if it's proven that person's a fraud and is abusing their power. So a lot of time they just retire people.
When is Boasberg going to retire?
Good guess. I don't know.
I mean, you keep hearing that guy's name show up.
Mm-hmm.
How many times can Boasberg be involved in these how can this one judge be at the epicenter of so much evil?
Yeah. Because, they create their own schedules. It's like coincidence. He just pops up. The guy that's going to be the political operative. It's like that. It's corruption of our judiciary, right? And like that, where he probably did something to fix his own schedule, or corrupt people put him in that position to be able to influence these cases.
Yeah.
They retire him. They retire him when they're all done.
Yeah. It's, I guess there's no sport in going after them once they're out, because they can't do any more damage.
I mean, exposing them, I think, is critical.
It is.
We did that on one judge that actually did leave the profession, and we still kept exposing him. And he really only got his comeuppance because of that, because he deserved jail time. Now, let me ask you this: we've been talking about being in Hollywood and trying to share what we've learned about the dangers that a lot of our co-workers, associates face. I mean, what do we do there?
There's definitely people work with who they like, then like minds attract each other, right? So if people are super liberal, they're going to hire their super liberal friends. And how do they know each other? Well, they support the LGBTQ movement. They volunteer for the Hillary campaign. They know each other just from their associations in those groups. And then they hire each other. And that's how it sort of perpetuates. So if you're conservative, you have to keep your mouth shut. And if you don't keep your mouth shut, you don't get hired. And that's, that they have the right to pick and choose who they work with. If you're a vice president of a network, sure, why not? But they need the audience in the flyover states.
Yeah.
So that's a very curious thing. I think what's going to end up happening is Hollywood's pretty dead right now. I mean, the movie theater industry is suffering. I mean, when's the last time you went to the movies? First of all, when's the last time you went to the movies, right? At all. But then second of all, when's the last time you went and you were like, oh my gosh, so many great movies. I don't know what to see tonight. what are my options?
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
options?
yeah. You'd have to take a time machine back to like 1994 or 1998 to be like, wow, there's like 5 amazing movies I want
Right.
to watch, you know?
I mean, where you had to go like the weekend multiple times and see all the stuff you wanted. But now, like, I don't have any interest. Like, even Marvel can't seem to pull out a hit these days.
I mean, Oppenheimer, I think, was the last movie I saw in the theaters because that was a good theater film.
Yeah, I think I saw Sound of. I know I saw Nefarious. That was pretty interesting. Sound of Freedom. You know, some of these Maverick was probably.
Maverick was great, man. Well,
Did you feel like Universal was mad that it was successful? Like maybe a little. Like they're very like.
I mean, these guys are all woke and stuff. Like and that's this crazy thing. It's like the movie that's going to save their business. Literally, Maverick saved the film business after COVID. That's a literal statement, you know? People are like, oh, we still need to see movies in theaters because that was a roller coaster of an experience, amazing experience, right?
Yeah.
Now, you know, that should be a big win. But we know from working in Hollywood that they don't like to win like that. They want to win with the content that's a propaganda that fits with the liberal mindset.
Yeah, they want Wicked.
Mm-hmm. They want Wicked. And then a lot of people don't want... Was Wicked a big movie? Or I don't even know. Did it make a lot of money?
I'm not really sure.
I know the Snow White thing completely failed. It seems like whenever they do woke stuff, it like doesn't make any money and stuff. So the logic would be like to make these pro-America films like Maverick that support our traditional values because those make $1.5 billion.
Yeah. So to that end, I think maybe what's going to have to happen is either Hollywood gets broken to the point that it finally opens up to filmmakers like us. I've got so many movies and shows in my head that I could make that are not copies, clones of the things that already exist. They are fun, exciting, educational, good for kids. Like there's all kinds of stuff we could be making. We're not making it, and Hollywood's going to have to have a reckoning. Nias is the best way to say it. Maybe the consolidation of studios was a bad thing. Why is Warner Brothers allowed to merge with Discovery and get a tax-free write-off? And now they're broke and they're having to split it again. You know, why aren't we asking questions like, why does this get allowed to continue? Why did Disney get to buy Fox? I mean, we need diversity in our creative endeavors. Otherwise, you're going to have one company that owns everything.
Which is a monopoly, which shouldn't exist. It's antitrust. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a great guy, but Weinstein oversaw some of my favorite movies, like the Kill Bill movies.
You know, man, Weinstein's an interesting topic because it's interesting to me that the greatness of Hollywood ceased when that kind of producer that was actually doing the groundbreaking films stopped to exist. It's crazy. I actually knew Harvey. Harvey. Yeah, I did. I actually knew Harvey. And, you know, it's very hard to talk about things when people are so black and white about stuff. Right. It's like, you know, I'll give you an example with this whole Iran thing. If you questioned it, half of MAGA would be like, you are a traitor to Trump and whatever. If you ask a simple question of like, do they really have like weapons of mass destruction? Because, you know, we've been told that a number of times and it turned out to be not true. And it seems logical because if you've been through, oh, you lied to me, lied to me, lied to me, and now you're like, questioning this, it seems like a logical thing, but it's just everything's so black and white with the way people think. So they don't see shades of gray.
Right.
You know?
Unless it's the movie Shades of Grey.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And so 2 things that brings up. One is like, how do you convince these people when there's that much brainwashing of, you know, man, the stuff that you've bought is like literally suicide on the installment plan. Because if you go along with the pharmaceutical thing and you listen to everything they say, and we're seeing how that's turned out, and your research indicates, I think, because you're not just COVID research, you actually done research on other vaccines.
Vaccines, the polio vaccine had an SD40 in it.
Talk about polio vaccine, because that is an interesting topic. A lot of people think polio, you know, they always bring up the polio vaccines, how great it was.
Polio vaccine was gold standard. It's what everybody points back to and says, oh, we cured polio. Apparently, polio was already on the downward slope. If you look back at the history, there was competition between Salk and Sabin, who were making competing vaccines. It was like a race to claim credit for the cure of polio. Now, I can't prove this, but a lot of people say that polio was actually caused by overuse of DDT to kill mosquitoes. And I mean, there's videos of people just being sprayed with that stuff. And even like was it FDR that they said he was crippled by polio, right? His crippling came after he swam in industrial waters, apparently. I don't have a direct reference for that, but check it out. So anyway, in the late 50s, early 60s, there was a researcher named Bernice Eddy, and she was quality control testing the polio vaccines on her own. I think that was how it worked. And she discovered that when she injected hamsters and mice with the polio vaccines that were being manufactured, they caused tumors. And she uncovered this SB40, which is simian virus 40, that came from the kidney cells of green monkeys that were used to create the vaccine. This SV40 causes tumors. This is an oncogenetic virus. And what that does is SV40, like there are genes in your body that help regulate your DNA and prevent it from being manipulated. P53 is one of these genes. It's called the guardian of the genome. And SV40 turns it off. So what you have is now
immune composition.
Yeah, well, you have a predisposition towards developing tumors that your body can no longer regulate. And SV40 helps make that happen. The FDA claims that they investigated and found no, it doesn't cause any tumors in anybody.
They self-investigated themselves, right. Of course, yeah.
And when they self-investigated, they discovered there's absolutely no evidence. Oncology as a industry has exploded since then, but there's no evidence. Don't ask your oncologist about SV40. You'll get a blank stare, and maybe you get fired by your doctor. You ask.
Wow.
So SV40 was discovered in these polio vaccines, and Bernice brought it up to the heads of NIH, and they told her to basically shut up. So she went public with this information, and then she was an original OG whistleblower, right? And because of her exposing this, they put her in FDA or NIH Siberia.
What does that mean?
That just means they took away her access to materials and put her in like a closet somewhere.
Wow.
But one of the things that came out of her work was regulations were enacted to make sure that no manufactured vaccine can have SV40 in it. They had to screen for it. The lawyers at the NIH said, hey, according to the letter of this regulation, this only applies to vaccines manufactured in the future. We've got 98 million doses in warehouses of this polio vaccine. It doesn't count for them. Ship them. So these vaccines went worldwide. And you had soft tissue cancers over time exploding. And, Harvey Reich is a Yale researcher. He does a lot of cancer research. And I told him about this, and he goes, well, because here's the thing. After this happened, in 1963, there's a book called Dr. Mary's Monkey that discusses how this SV40 virus was being gain-of-functioned into a weapon to kill Castro.
Wow.
And one of the researchers was named Mary Sherman, and she was found burned in half, bone burned, which could only be done by a much higher temperature thing than an apartment fire. But they said she had died in an apartment fire. Her body was half burned off. There was a particle beam reactor in New Orleans that was being used to irradiate animals to create mutations through tumors. The tumors would be masticated, irradiated in new animals, and the mutations would continue up. That's how they were doing gain of function. One of the associates of Mary Sherman was a girl named Judith Baker. And Judith was this new science kid that came out of Florida. She was a genius. CIA NCI, National Cancer Institute, out in Oshner. They brought her into New Orleans in the summer and spring of 1963 to help Dr. Sherman do this gain of function work out of an apartment, because it was a kind of a clandestine operation to build this vaccine weapon to kill Castro,
Wow.
to kill him in 30 days. By the end of their research, Mary Sherman called Judith one day and said, we have to start wearing masks and better stuff, because animals in other cages that haven't been injected with our gain of function thing are now getting tumors, which means it was airborne. Then Mary Sherman gets burned alive by what we believe was an accident in the lab, or maybe the particle fusion or particle beam burned her by accident, and that they dumped her body in the apartment. This is all in Dr. Mary's Monkey. It's a book. Anyway, so I've interviewed Judith Baker. She's 81 years old now, I think, and she has a wealth of information. But one of the interesting things about her story, and I actually kind of hate it because it distracts from the gain of function research in New Orleans by the National Cancer Institute. Judith was assigned a handler in the spring of 1963. I didn't tell you this yet, but the handler was a Marine who was I think he was a Marine, who was friendly to the CIA and the mob in New Orleans. And his name was Lee Harvey Oswald.
No, dude.
He was helping her as an assistant, but also protecting her. So then they started having an affair. And when she and Lee refused to take the next step in the research, which was to inject prisoners in New Orleans or in Louisiana with this weapon to see if it would kill them, they refused. They were like, we can't murder these people. And so Oshner, out in Oshner, who's a huge name, and there's Oshner clinics right now in Louisiana, he fired them both, and Lee was sent to Dallas that summer, where he became part of history.
Mistake assassin.
And then, right. Very fast.
I could relate.
We're after this conversation. You get it. So you got lucky, like you really did. Like, thank God nothing happened to Trump then, because if anything had happened to him that day, you would have been implicated and the system would have railroaded you even harder.
Oh, they already tried.
Oh, yeah.
They already tried,
So anyway, that was the story of how SV40 was turned into a weapon. And that's a really fascinating book, Dr. Mary's Monkey, by, I think, Edward Aslam is his name. And Judith Baker has a book called Lee Harvey and Me. And it sort of chronicles her history with him and what they were working on. And
so he was a CIA handler that basically went in there to help her out with this.
Well, she was this very impressionable kind of naive girl. She was picked by the CIA because, first of all, she was an established scientist, because to bring someone from academia to clandestine research is probably a bit difficult. But she had demonstrated an affinity for taking germ-free mice, and she was able to inject mice with SV40, create tumors. And then she showed that you can extract a tumor and inject it in another animal and create more tumors, which indicates that some cancers are contagious. I ain't never heard that, have you?
Never heard that.
No one's ever told you that cancer might be contagious.
Wow.
Well, SV40 is also sexually transmissible.
Well,
and if you look into SV40 and what it works in tandem with to create cancer even faster, so guess what it works with? I don't know if works is the best term, but it enhances the effects of asbestos to cause mesothelioma.
Wow.
Like 80% more. It's on Wikipedia.
So so I'm getting shades of Batman. You said the Batman quote earlier. I'm talking about 1989 Batman, where it's this kind of like, it's like the two ingredients that destroy your life kind of thing, kill you basically. You need both of them we need one to trigger
you
the
work
other.
in a building filled with asbestos.
You might be all right.
You're probably all right.
Yeah.
You get this SV40 shot. Now you get mesothelioma.
Yeah.
And the medical industry never talks about the mesothelioma SV40 connection. And I even contacted a researcher that proved that there was a connection. And she saw some of my work and refused to talk to me, said I'm not allowed to even quote her unless it was whatever she has said was already public, which, by the way, I don't think she understands how that works, but whatever. I wasn't here to expose her. I was here to get information, and she didn't want to provide it. She said she still believes in vaccines. And this is what you're dealing with. Vaccinology is not science, it is faith.
Yeah, and it's like I've interviewed Brian Hooker, who's RFK Jr.'s writing partner. He wrote a book called Vax Unvax. He's a 30-something-year PhD expert in vaccine injuries. He said there's literally never been a vaccine in the history of humankind which has net positive versus net negative when consider the bigger picture. Yes, some people might think they're getting better, whatever.
Yeah.
But the damages, which obviously that's not the research they want to do. That's not the stuff they want to expose. But it always far exceeds, according to RFK and Brian Hooker.
I mean, I fell for it. I thought they were good. I got my kids vaccinated. And we got vaccinated.
You're talking about the birth vaccines and stuff.
Oh yeah, we did the whole thing. And then when 2020 happened, it was so obvious to me how much we had. The best interpretation was that we had botched the COVID rollout. Like the whole COVID treatment option, the hospitals screwed up, the federal agencies all screwed up. That was, to say it was a mistake is the nicest possible way you could approach it.
Yeah,
incompetent mistakes. But there seems to be a malicious factor, and that's a terrifying, keep you up at night kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think there's some people out there were maybe doing things to reduce the human population.
Even back then.
I mean, well, even, maybe in the 60s, eugenics is not new, the Sanger Institute, all those people, when you go back to the history of abortion, that it's there's a whole nother layer of dark history there. There's a great documentary called The 1916 Project by Seth Gruber. I don't know if you can see it right now. I think there might be retooling it a little bit, but very, very interesting history of the Sanger Institute. I think Elizabeth Sanger, and how they created what came out to be Planned Parenthood, but how also like the Nazis were impressed with what they were doing. Like,
the Planned Parenthood is all. I mean, the Planned Parenthood is a racist organization that wants, and the reason Nazis love Planned Parenthood is because the undesirable races just abort all their babies, so they're less undesirable races from the Nazi point of view, which is crazy because we claim that the Nazis were our enemies, immoral, and all that, but like that's being replicated over here,
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's medicine has a very has a very large skeleton closet.
Yeah. I've heard stories like, I've heard like satanic agendas and stuff. I've heard all sorts of things where these medical meetings, like, and I don't know if this is true because we hear all kinds of things, but there's literally a chair for what they call Lucifer. And you and I were discussing how Lucifer is not really in the Bible, but apparently there's stuff like that. I don't know if it's true. I've never been inside those rooms with the big like top level meetings and stuff, but I've heard from multiple sources that there's always a chair for that demonic personality. But we'll find out. I don't know. I guess we might have to go undercover, pretend we're expert doctors to find out that one. But you could imagine him with a robe and all that. It's like he looks like a doctor. Actually, this is like, I think we're going to start Project Veritas.
It's time for your prostate exam. Cough. Sorry, we don't have any lubricant. You're just gonna have to get it dry.
Yeah. Well, dude, this is a fascinating interview. This is a fascinating interview, John. I think we're gonna need to do a part 2 of this too. Yeah. Because there's a lot we got to talk about. Because
I think my visit here has been to make friends with you, because there's not that many people that can hang with these conversations.
Oh, totally.
And have a history, of production. So
yeah, I know when we were talking last night, even listening to some of the stories you haven't published,
man, I keep seeing short docs, long docs. I mean, the amount of research you've done is so phenomenal. And some of the stuff you've uncovered, like this polio thing.
Yeah.
And we are going to get to the full story of that. I don't want to do it on this interview, but the full story of that polio vaccine is such a powerful story. Your motivation for doing it, you developing content to tell that greater story. Very unique person, very unique journalist. And, I mean, there's only a handful of that in our country right now,
By the way, if you want to see the movie, you can go to epidemicoffraud.com or you can go to brokentruth.tv.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you so much, viewers. We're going to have another follow. We're going to do a lot of stuff with John coming, looking forward here, multiple episodes and hopefully collaborations. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Make sure you check out americahappens.com for all of our featured content. And I will see you all on the next episode of Blood Money. Thank you.
Everything I've got, pushing for that first place.